Welcome to the Unfold You podcast, a space where we share insights so that we can elevate the human consciousness and expand our awareness of being. That way, we improve the way we live life instead of mundanely and laboring away, making a living, but are consciously making the right decisions and choices that help us to live a life of experiences designed by ourselves and of choice. Last week, I shared about the divine parenting code, and I talked about the various stages in which a human being is raised so that they're able to make a living, but we want to change that narrative so that we have a higher quality of living from an elevated consciousness, so that we are living life experiences by design, choice, and conscious awareness. I broke down the various stages in which we are brought into the awareness of being, our sense of self, how it is shaped, the self perception that we have, the state of awareness of being, and this the first place where this is shaped is the family. So we're going to continue still with the family pod where one's mind, body, and soul are formatted in order to have this life experience. We're talking about you, the supreme divine being who is here to have a human experience. How do you best engage so that it gives you the fulfillment, happiness, peace, and abundance that you already came with? It all starts with the consciousness and sense of self. So today I'll be looking at the four planes that we exist, but mainly focusing on three, that is body, mind, and soul. And like I previously shared in the past podcast, if you haven't watched it, you can check it out. It's available. Planning a family starts from you, the parents, the individuals. What state of consciousness are you holding before the two of you become one? Because whatever narrative that is going in the collective and the state of consciousness that you have about your sense of self is what you are going to pass on and regenerate, or should I say, reproduce. So today we shall focus on how we can actually become conscious parents as we bring forth other supreme beings to have a human experience from an elevated state of consciousness and expanded awareness of being. So let's look at the three planes from which we are given the guardianship, stewardship, nurturing, parenting, whatever you choose to call it. It's the body, mind, and soul. Let's look at the body first of all. I don't know what kind of narrative you were parented in, but there are four typical ones in the collective. And that is raise a child to be obedient, intelligent, be able to score high test scores, get a job that will sustain them in time. They make time to make a family, choose a spouse who will complement them, each taking their roles, be religious to a supreme being according to the religion you are, because they're the ones who will take care of you while you're here. And when you're done, they guarantee you a ticket out of this hellish place into a location called heaven. So that's the typical parenting. But now we want to go to a conscious level. So the body is normally taken care of by sustaining it with nutrition, feeding, covering shelter, healthcare. And under healthcare, if a child raises a temperature, we're quick to run them to a doctor. Healthcare should also mind the emotional wellness of a child, which we call emotional intelligence, but in most cases we find that it's more like subduing the emotions so that you are a behaving or well-behaving being. So when it comes to the body, yes, we sustain it with the nutrition and physical education, but there is a higher consciousness of that body that has to flow from one's true sense of being, that they are unique divine being who is housed in this temple we call the body. So the body just doesn't need physical education and taking care when it falls ill. It also needs the consciousness of its energetics, because it's the energetics that will automatically heal this vessel that we call the body. But when we're not tuned to the energetics of our beingness, we are then taking care of the health of the body from a limited version. And you wonder why you fall ill, or the body is disintegrating, we call it aging, faster than it should. So because of the consciousness in which you are raised, and you also are going to raise your children, you're just looking at the half of the being. Remember, you're supreme being having a human experience, but the supreme being is the one who has a higher consciousness that can tell the energies of the body to heal itself. The seven chakras, if you've never heard about chakras, go and read about it, because you are, first of all, an energetic being, and it's the energy being that you are that is giving this what you call material, physical body, a materialization. And it's the seven chakras that hold it in fullness and that are supposed to be the ones that heal it. But if you're not a conscious being, and I mean conscious in your divine consciousness, then you're not aware about that energetics part. Then we move to the mind. The mind, we tend to think, has to be just schooled in intellect and reasoning, high academics, or intelligent person, which is good. But there is a superior intelligence that is supposed to guide this logic and reason, that is only looking at the linear perspective of its existence. And if, I don't know about you, were raised in the narrative that I was raised in, you have to go for high test scores, then you have been taken to school systems that simply pump you with information, make you memorize and regurgitate it with no tangible experience of that knowledge. Because the other part of your mind is, it's supposed to be the transformer through which you consciously create the experiences the individual desires to experience and probably bring to the collective. Because your mind is supposed to be through which your superconscious mind sends directions or an idea, giving it an intention. And once you pay attention, then you will energetically get involved with it to move, to create. And that's where the emotions also come in. Yes, when we're minding the mind, we also teach in emotional intelligence, but we're mainly focusing on subduing and, suppressing the emotions. You're emotionally imbalanced because you don't know that the emotions are actually the transformers through which you're energized. Energy, emotion, to take the choices and decisions that become your habits become your behavior, and from your behavior is where your life experiences come. So, what happens with this kind of education where we're just building the mental mind, the intellect? We subdue the curiosity, intelligence, we subdue the imagination, from where your divine consciousness creates consciously an experience and aligns the thoughts or that imagination with the right emotions so as to take the right aligned actions. And that way you do not misfire and end up being emotionally deranged. Rather, you are led by intuition. So I don't know, like I said, what consciousness you were raised in, but were you ever told that your higher sense of mentality is actually the mind is through which you are supposed to charge, direct, and design your life experiences? So we teach them to be the master of the intellect and reasoning, but not the master of the mind through which conscious creating will happen. And finally, we go to the soul. The soul is something we've made a spiritual nurturing and upbringing. Like I said, it depends which religion or none, because even traditionalists, or what we call witch doctors, is a religionist dealing with the spiritual existence, which is actually the superior being through which your God consciousness is supposed to flow. So what do? We are nurtured through a religion that tells us about a superior being outside of us. We have to submit outside of us. And hence what happens? The self-awareness that you are the divine conscious creating being is put to sleep. And so you start creating from miss and guess and miss, and following the narrative that you find that is common in the collective in the given time. Because the truth is, when it comes to the soul bit, it's about awakening your intuition and presence, your essence. Because when you know who you are, your higher self, the unique blueprint of God force that is here to have an experience in whatever vessel, then you will know how to consciously, energetically embody. Yes, embody, where we'll take motion and actions and take the actions aligned to that. I'm going to use the scripture that, because I was raised through Christianity, that says, train up a child in the way they will go so that when they grow, they do not divert from it. It is actually a universal metaphysical way of raising a child. And every time in my podcast, when you hear me mention child, I'm not talking about the physical, infant, baby. No, I'm talking about the Christ consciousness, because that is the consciousness, the child that's born in the consciousness of every human being existence here. And that's the consciousness we're supposed to consciously steward and guide. You don't do it for them, you just guide them to make them aware that there is a true sense of self that is individualized. So, like I said, depending of where you were raised and what you were consciously told you are, that you are probably just a mere human being, then that higher aspect of yourself has been unconsciously put to sleep. So in the end, what do we have? A fully developed human, but that human sense of supreme being has been put to sleep. So I'm taking this divine parenting code from the Holy Scriptures. I was raised in Christianity, but I've since realized that most of that scripture is metaphysical. And when Jesus Christ was demonstrating, was showing you how to turn consciousness into matter. And the one that we most use in the spiritual sector is train up a child in the way they shall go, so that when they grow up, they do not depart from it. So how do we train up a child? Not just from the personal, physical, mental plane and spiritual plane, but from the consciousness that they are the divine, unique being having a human experience, that they have their own unique talents and abilities, that they are the ones to self regulate, self discipline, self master, to self realize themselves to themselves that they are divine. And as they do that, they will realize for themselves their unique talents and abilities and serve them in their time. Once you ground a child in their consciousness, the Christian consciousness, like I said, every time you hear me in this podcast talking about child, I'm not just talking about the physical. When you ground them in the consciousness that they are unique, divine spark, let's just say the word, they are God in the flesh. So are you. When you ground them and guard them and steward them, because there's a difference between being a guard, like a friend of mine shared the other day, and a guardian. A guardian who has walked the path before will look at the child at the various stages, and you will nurture their divine consciousness in their body, in their mind and emotions, their thinking, and in their presence, which is the higher consciousness. The presence has to be there every given moment. So how do you train them as a child? Because when we are all born here, we come with an unconsciousness to the physical world, which we have actually created by being present, and have forgotten the unique talents and gift. And our true sense of perception is that we are divine spark. So if you come into a family that is unconscious, deeply spiritual and religious, it's gonna give you the narrative of you're only human. And what does it do? Rockabye baby to your God consciousness. You will not wake up until you die and go to heaven. Yeah, I thought I would sing that because I remind myself every given moment. Right now, I myself, I'm unlocking myself. And boy, when I found this out, I decided, hey, we're in the era of information and technology. Let's spread the word. That those who have already walked before us in this consciousness, but now as a collective. So, for you who are planning to be a parent, check yourself. How spiritually conscious, and by spiritual, I'm not talking religious, how conscious are you that you're the I am God right now? And who is your partner? How conscious are they? Because, like I shared before, it starts preterm. Before you come together, those are energetic bodies. That's why I said, as you raise your child, you're raising the body, also the energetic awareness, their chakras, and how they are imbalanced or fully balanced in their body, right? Then we have the mind, the intellect. Yes, the mentor is good, but how do you trigger them to use their imagination as the voice of God that they are? Because it's from there that we create the ideas we want to experience, and then transition them or transform them through our emotions that impel us to take motion. Now that's the creative energy in motion. And if the body is physically lined with the higher consciousness, then definitely the emotions will be used right. So, like I said, check yourself. Have you been raised in the limited narrative? Or are you conscious as a parent and consciously raising your child so that they come forth and have the divine human experience from the highest sense of self and awareness of being? So, like I said, you're born into a narrative where either the consciousness of one's superior being has already been activated in that family unit, because that's the first place where you're shaped and told who you are and who you can and cannot be. So generally, most of us, I'm not saying everybody, because there are those who have actually been aligned rightly from the beginning. That's why we're having the Unfold You podcast, so that even you as you're watching now, it's never too late. I myself right now, I'm in that space where I'm unfolding and asking myself, where did I get this parenting style? How was I told to be and who not to be? You, my friend, are the only one who can unfold yourself by bringing to your conscious mind that which has subconsciously been put into your subconscious mind and is being fed to your superior consciousness. So, like I said, body, mind, soul. The soul is not just for taking to church or whatever religious subscription you have. The soul is about consciously being aware that you are the creator of whatever you pay attention with intention to take aligned actions to become your habit. Your habit becomes your behavior. And that's where you direct the choices of your life to experience them. Unless, like I said, we generally all are given the narrative of making a living. Whereas the true narrative is come in here, be fully guided into your sense of self, your own self perception, so that you start unlocking your divine talents and abilities. And those are the ones that are supposed to be skilled from curiosity, intuition. I'm not saying you forget about the personal development, which we tend to go for, raising the human and forgetting the being that's having the human experience. They are supposed to coexist with the superior being in above and directing the lower human consciousness. So, yes, like I said, the Unfold You podcast is here so that we can bring this to our consciousness. And once we become about conscious, about how we have been raising our children, we can now go back and look at what we have subconsciously taken on as the parenting pattern, which limits us from bringing forth a conscious supreme being, having a human experience. So, we exist in 4 planes. We experience from 3. And by 4, I'm talking about the highest life force source, energy, God, whatever you call it, because that's where we all come from. But then we each get an individualized experience, and that's your soul, which comes with unique talents and abilities. And those talents and abilities, once they're numbed down into just intellect and what the general experience is for what work should be, it should be service in deployment, we find ourselves misaligned. And so instead of living life with great quality and experience designed by your own unique blueprint, you are stressed, hustling, and you always question yourself, is this life? Yes, the one supposed to design it if you've been consciously tuned into your higher sense of self. So, the divine parenting code, which I talked about last week, we're going to keep unfolding every other week to look at maybe areas that we were not conscious of. Like I said, this space is here to elevate our consciousness and expand awareness of being. The more you know of the truth and depths of who you are and how much capacity and ability and potential you have, you will do things differently. And the way you approach life won't be chasing, hustling, struggling, waiting to die and be rescued to go away to a place called heaven. Instead, you will be consciously aware that you are the heaven and the harmonious consciousness that creates its own unique experiences. And every challenge you run into, your soul, your God present self, has already the ability, because that's what you came to unlimit yourself from. And when you unlimit yourself, you'll also do it for other generations to come. So we are looking at bringing forth conscious beings that live life consciously aware of what they're creating to experience. And that itself improves life's experiences, living life rather than making a living. So at this point, I'm just going to throw the question to you. Like I told you, it's unfold yourself. I'm also in this space where I'm unfolding myself, and it is a beautiful unfoldment where there's no judgment, just being conscious of what has been running your life, programmed and conditioned, and you feel like there's more to me than that. I'm going to ask you, if you are a parent, what was the parenting narrative that you were given? Making a living? You know, get good grades, go to church, blah, blah. That's the making a living narrative. Or why you aware that you are superior being here to write your own life experiences, but while you're doing it, you service your gifts. That's how you get the generation of circulation of income of what we call money, because money is energy and you also energy. How you fully embody yourself is how fully money will work back to you. But most of us get misaligned. The good news is never too late. So, what parenting skill were you raised in? Is it the limited version or the conscious creator who's consciously creating their life and living from freedom, abundance, fulfillment? Nothing outside of you is going to fulfill you. When you know who you are, you came with the completeness, with the fulfillment, and those things you desire to do from joy, happiness, and abundance. When you know the true sense of self, then you live your life. So if you were given that limiting narrative, I'm sure at one point you asked yourself, really, is this my life? No, you were living lives of maybe 50 generations back who never woke up to the consciousness that they are the divine who consciously create. Question number 2, are you, if you're a parent, raising your children from your fears? And what do I mean by fears? The narrative that tells us to make a living, gives us fear. Fear of missing out, fear of poor academic qualifications, fear of not getting a well-paying job, fear of not getting a marriage partner, fear of not knowing a God who will rescue you in the end when you die. Fear, fear, fear. So the question is that the narrative you are given? And if so, are you raising your children from consciousness of fear, or are you raising your child from consciousness that they are the divine and they create their life's experience by being fully present in who they are, embody it, and act on it each and every other day? So, like I said, the Unfold You podcast is here so that we elevate the consciousness of living life as the supreme being having a human experience. And like I said, the month of May is a month of sharing. This is what I had to share for you. Go back and ask yourself if they've only told you you're only human. And if they told you only human, where are you living from? How are you living from your body? How are you living from your mind space and emotions? No wonder we have so many mental illnesses. If you don't know who you are, you're as good as a mad hatter. You're out of your mind, because your mind is the pure divine that is always pure, and your heart, your emotions are not supposed to imbalance you. Actually, they're telling you you're out of line, so that your intuition always leads you to navigate, because we're here to co-create. You can't change how people are creating, but you can change how you course your life from a place of ease and not force, from a place of flow and not struggling. So I'll wind up today's podcast. It was all about being conscious, how you have been raised in your mind, in your body, in your soul. And next week, we'll talk about the awareness, the overall awareness, life force source, how you, the individualize, also come as one as you are co-creating in this space. So if you missed out on last week's podcast, it is available. The Divine Parenting Code is what we're focusing on this whole month of May. And I will be releasing a book on that, which will help you also unfold yourself. For you, the parent, it's never too late to unfold yourself. Be that conscious parent who will bring forth conscious beings who live from their higher consciousness of being, and be able to create a life of ease, flow, presence, and consciously designing the life experience they chose to have as a superior being here, having a human experience. Thank you for watching. Join me again next week. And if you liked it, subscribe, share. Every week I'll be sharing for this month of May the Divine Parenting Code. Let's raise conscious beings for a higher and better quality of life. Not making a living, but living life consciously knowing that you are the one in charge, that you are the creator. You decide how you're going to experience life as a supreme being here on planet Earth.